the other big issue in the country, which is the social unrest and racial injustice issues that folks are talking about in each of your jurisdictions. I want to focus that, though, mostly on the business community, because that's our audience today. And we're very much interested in hearing what you all have to say about that. My specific question, and let's see, I'll start with Governor Hogan first, is that one of the issues that has come up in the pandemic, and it's also leaked over into this social unrest issue, is the effect on small businesses and in particularly minority businesses. This region has always been a pretty good place to start a business and to grow a business, and we want to keep it that way as business owners and workers here. What can you tell us about your efforts to help businesses grow and minority businesses grow in light of both the pandemic and the social unrest issues that we're facing?
It was a great question, Tony. I mean, first of all, there have been serious equity issues, and we've had more of a problem with the coronavirus on the health side with respect to our minority communities. It's where we've put a lot of our emphasis on testing and contact tracing, and we've had a higher percentage of people impacted in those communities than in the rest of our communities. And we remain committed to doing everything we possibly can to help all small businesses, but particularly minority, small and women and minority-owned businesses, to get back on their feet and to try to weather this storm. So the Maryland Department of Commerce and our Governor's Office of Small, Minority, and Women-Owned Business Affairs has been hard at work trying to provide additional resources and aid, grants, and loans to our small and minority-owned businesses. So we have in small grants to the smallest and most disadvantaged businesses. We've paid out over $3.2 million in direct grants to some of these companies. We've distributed $2.3 billion in CARES Act funding and emergency relief grants and loans and direct payments for things like PPE production and to help them with payroll. And this is an issue that we have to continue to focus on. We were doing really well, and we've got a very diverse population in Maryland, and I think that was last year. I think we had the biggest growth in America in minority and women-owned businesses, and but there's no question that they're impacted more, and all small businesses are really suffering. But we're doing everything we possibly can to keep them afloat. It's hurting businesses at all levels. But these, as we talked earlier, some of the smallest of our businesses and our minority-owned businesses have greatly been impacted. And some estimates are 30% to 50% of some of these small businesses may not survive. So we're doing everything we possibly can, advocating at the national level, as the mayor mentioned, for more to get a final a fourth stimulus package passed. As a chair of the governors, I have been very vocal about the need for this kind of additional funding to the state and local governments and to help us with our small business needs. And I'm going to continue to push for that because it's frustrating that we can't find some kind of agreement between the House and the Senate, between Republicans and Democrats and the administration. I did a Zoom like this yesterday with a group called the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is 25 Democrats and 25 Republicans in Congress came together with a compromise proposal to finally make progress so we can get some of this funding so we can help those businesses and get funding so we're not laying off state employees and local city employees. And so we're going to push for more federal. We're doing everything we can at the state, and we have specific groups of people focused just on small and minority-owned businesses.
Great. Let's go to Governor Northam. Again, looking at the combined pandemic and racial injustice issues that you've been tackling with, again, give us some thoughts on how the region continues to both be a place for inclusive growth and for us to make a little bit of money at the same time.
Yeah, Tony, thank you for that. And, to kind of reiterate what Governor Hogan said. You know, we saw early on during this pandemic that people of color were disproportionately being affected, that also it was more difficult to get into the communities with PPE, with testing, tracing. There was a trust factor. So we've worked very hard. We established a health equity commission over a year ago now. This was timely, but we were the first state, I believe, to really hire a diversity, equity, and inclusion officer. And Dr. Janice Underwood came in with a lot of experience, and she has just been phenomenal, reaching out to communities and making sure that we're able to take care of everybody in Virginia. Tony, to your point, you know, we talk about the big businesses sometime, but we have to remember that 97% of our economy is our small business community. And they have been hit really hard during this pandemic. And so SWAM is important. That's already been mentioned by the governor. Another thing that we did, we have a program in Virginia called Rebuild Virginia. It's $50 million is what we started with to offer grants, to offer assistance to businesses that have been hurt by this pandemic. So I think the governor of Maryland, he spoke to these, and I'm sure the mayor is doing some of the same things, but there are, and I think the message has to go out to all businesses that we're here to help through the CARES Act. We do have some resources to use. And so if there are businesses that are hurting, please let us know. And again, we'll do everything that we can to help them continue and also to grow as we come out of COVID-19.
Thank you very much. Mayor, you have really been at the forefront since many of the protests are in your district, and you have really handled them, in my opinion, admirably. Again, tie it to the pandemic and the business community. What are your thoughts on the impact that these issues have had on the business community and how you are approaching it?
Well, what I've seen, and I'm hopeful about this, and I'm hopeful that it persists, is that business communities are recognizing that their customers demand their participation in this national discussion about racial justice. So you see it from everything from the commercials that they're running. They're reaching out to local governments about programs that can help minority-owned businesses, or training and internship and apprentice programs. So all of those things I think will be to the long-term benefit of having more diverse workplaces, more capital investment, more startups, more minority participation on boards, recruiting more minorities and women in leadership. All of those things are to the long-term benefit, I think, of racial and social justice in our communities. But we have some very persistent and very tough issues to crack, from the racial wealth gaps to the housing gaps in our cities, which I'm very concerned about, and we haven't spent a lot of time talking about, but that's going to be a big issue for our country. How are people going to stay in safe and affordable housing, which is key. The federal programs, I think, have been helpful to us. We had a lot of money come into our city from PPP. We saw it go out more slowly to minority communities, and we think that has a lot to do with long-standing relationships that majority firms have that minority firms don't. So all of those things are not new issues, but COVID has emphasized how much of a problem that they are. And so we have to continue to take advantage of it. For us as a local government, we want to see how we can use our convening role to make those kind of now new, sometimes initiatives from the private sector more long lasting, and make sure that we have a place to help them analyze the impact to get the word out to our communities, to incent them in some ways, if it makes sense for us to be a partner in that investment. And then I think what we can see is the ideas that are percolating. I think it was Governor Hogan that says the private sector is going to come up with some good ideas. What it takes to, that you're a stronger company when you have diverse voices. That you will build more consumer confidence in a wider consumer base when you can demonstrate those values to your customers. And especially in a region like ours, where people choose to live here because they want to do good. They're in the do good business. And so they're going to honor and support businesses who can also demonstrate their values. So I see my role in that. And I think we each have established commissions that are going to focus on our recovery, our reopen and recovery from the private sector, that I think that you can have the institutional kind of support from the government to help make those private sector ideas long lasting.